Mine is one for the staff and director. Um, I'm like Mr. Young. I don't particularly have a gripe with the applicant. Okay, my issue is, and I understand that he doesn't own the property. My issue is a logistical one, and in terms of long-term, long-range planning, I'm concerned about this driveway. And so my question to you guys is, can you, for the record, give us your understanding of why there's this move away from the intersections as it regards to driveways, from a planning perspective?
Anytime you have driveways too close to an intersection, you have a series of conflicting movements. And that's a new standard, or no, it's not actually new, it's been a standard for quite a while. Even when we work with the Department of Transportation, that's one of their key things. Whenever a site opens up, they will sometimes even require you to close driveways because of their standard that says pull as far away from the intersection as possible. You will limit accidents and conflicts if you do that. And that's been proven over and over again in every city across the United States. And it's part of the reason why both the Valvoline site and the Circle K sites both have that design built in there. Now, when you talk about Gilbert Drive, one of the problems with this site is if you really look at that site plan, you can see how tight it is there. There's not a lot of maneuverable room right there. Even if you could come off of Gilbert, the maneuverability is extremely limited because with Valvoline, the driveway is coming behind the building. Here you have no space or place to put a driveway.
Because there's a residence right behind
Exactly.
it, and then there's Atkins.
Then you're impacting that residence more. And so the reality is the maneuverability off of a driveway off of Gilbert is very questionable. I don't even know if it would even work. But it does make sense since that remaining driveway to the east, to the furthest east, is the actual standard side for an ingress-egress driveway. There's no reason why that can't work. It works that way in a lot of sites throughout the city where they only have one driveway in with the exit being the same drive.
And insofar as they're not going to be delivering gas to this location, you won't have
and
18-wheelers there.
Right. The applicant even said, I'm going to have less traffic because there's not going to be the gasoline sales. Well, if you're not going to have that, then one driveway would probably work just fine here. And from a traffic engineering perspective, it would seem to be a workable solution.
Well,
Now, if there was more space to this site and you could access Gilbert, it'd be one thing. But I think that problem, it'd be very difficult to make that work with this limited size site and the closeness that building is to that residence.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Mr. Sweeney, I don't know if you I'm looking at the site right now, and as you note, there is the two driveways, and the semicircle that's between the two driveways represents the landscaping that's there now.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, if there is a must to close the western driveway,
Yes.
then could the landscaping be moved over to where it abuts the current landscaping there, and then where that semicircle is, widen that driveway to where it is without question large enough for it to be an ingress and egress even larger than what it is right now?
We would be willing to work with the city engineering department to verify if the driveway could be widened a little bit more, if that would help accommodate the applicant's needs. We would rely on this traffic engineer to tell us whether or not that is workable, but that's a possibility. If you'll notice in our stipulations, we said that if you close the westernmost drive, the landscaping and the sidewalk would be extended across that area being closed and would become a more attractive visual front to this property. And at the same time would direct traffic toward that other access point and away from the neighborhood off of Gilbert. That's the whole intent of that design, both from conflict and getting it further away from the Gilbert neighborhood area.
But I guess my question, then, for Mr. Sutton, who's representing Mr. Woods, is I don't know, maybe do you understand what I'm getting
It's
at?
going to be the owner.
And whether or not that widening it in any way comes, because if the only answer is it needs to be two driveways, then that's not compromise, and it may not be the right deal. But if in fact widening it, making sure it's widened so that what you're trying to accomplish is ingress and egress sufficient to not slow traffic down or those kind of things, then additional room seems to me to make sense. If there was a full front, if all of it was a full front and there was just a little landscape on the right, still wouldn't be 2 drives, but it'd be more than enough room
Right.
to get in, is what I'm saying. So I guess my point becomes, it would seem like, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Sutton, he certainly didn't speak for himself, but it appeared his deal was, if these not the 2, then there's no deal. I can't change that. I'm just saying, I'm looking for a situation where it accommodates what happens and the business is still able to get done sufficiently what they need to do. But that's not my call.
And in response to what you're saying, we'd be more than willing to visit that possibility with the city traffic engineer to verify if that design could be workable within
Sure.
the site.
Can I, Mr.?
Yes, Mr. Joseph?
And I know you're not Mr. Caston, but you're here speaking for the owner, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
If you will, so we can get you back up here.
No,
I'm not
just-
the owner. I do.
No, I'm just saying, he wants to speak.
Yeah, I
on
need
anything
to-
else, I get.
I just have one facility.
Yeah.
That's not in the.
Yeah. So, and what was your name for the record again?
Bill Sanders.
Okay, Mr. Sanders, I think you're following and tracking the dialogue here, and you can kind of see obviously what the concern is. Speaking in terms of your connection with the owner, are we hitting on something that you guys can work with?
So,
And would it also be conducive to your potential long-range sale? If you're looking at somebody else down the road, that's not Mr. Woods.
what's not indicated on this site plan is the owner owns the adjacent parcel here, which
The
totals.
blank property, I mean, the.
Yes, this
Okay.
this parcel that's adjacent right here.
Mhm.
So my concern would be, if you take away that driveway, there's no guarantee that down the road, whether it be Mr. Caston or a future owner, could get another another driveway if we were to accommodate. That site can accommodate approximately 12,000 square feet
This,
under roof.
Mr.
So-
Sanders, let me do this, just as a point of order. Why don't we finish getting there may be other opposition that we need to
yeah.
Right.
record before we talk
Sure.
about this again. Why don't we, is there any other opposition? I want to receive the other yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Dan Karuna. I live at 2508 Lake Crest Drive in Shreveport. My main opposition to this is that it's a liquor store. I drive past Lakeshore Drive Liquor every single day, several times a day, because it's on my way to and from this corridor. I work on this Kings Highway corridor. I've been doing it for 20 years now. I buy old houses, old derelict buildings, rehab them, and improve them. I've been working with the Atkins for the last 7 years doing that. You're worried about the absence of businesses going into these properties. It's mostly based on price. Once the price hits a point, somebody, either me or somebody like me, will buy it and renovate it and make it a nice place. We've had the problem with the Don Seafood. It's a tear-down building. We've been through it several times trying to figure out what we could do with it. It's just, this property has the adjacent property next to it. It could be many things besides this little tiny corner piece of property with a tiny little business in it, with all concrete. It can be demolished and it could be a much different business. Lakeshore Liquors, number one, backs up to a railroad bridge, or a railroad crossing yard or something, and it's got 4 lanes in both of the intersecting directions. It's sort of a completely separate, and it's closed off by Family Dollar, I believe, which wraps all the way around behind it. It's completely enclosed by itself. We own the property, three residential duplexes to the 1 block south of this proposed property, and all of the residential property from the vacant lots next door to the east all the way to Centenary, and property on Centenary. We've been steadily improving this property over years and trying to improve the type of aesthetics. We've put in our own landscaping with nobody's approval from the MPC. We just put our own landscaping in to make the property better. Just putting we've seen in the last couple of years an increase in the crime, and that's my main concern about putting the liquor store in here, is that the crime that we do see generally is related to people that are intoxicated. We've seen a lot of people just checking cars we've got video monitors in the area and some of our parking lots. We see people wandering through, and you can tell they're drunk by the way they're stumbling through the parking lot, checking door handles at night at 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't want more of that in my neighborhood. I don't want that for the people that live in my neighborhood. We have a signature. We dropped off a pamphlet this morning showing studies that alcoholic liquor stores will bring more abuse to the area, and also dropped off a 200 signature application for people that don't want it in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Any questions? I'm sorry, I forget the last name.
Karuna.
Karuna. Any questions from any commissioners? Thank you. Anybody else here to speak in opposition to the application? All right. Now, if you'd like, Mr. Woods, you can have a rebuttal at this time. You are a representative. Whoever someone is free to. You don't have to. You're certainly welcome to if you'd like to.
Mr. Sutton, I would like for him to do the rebuttal, but I had one point of interest that has not been talked about with the driveways, and that is delivery trucks. Delivery trucks, Coca-Cola trucks, beer trucks, trying to maneuver in one driveway and that particular lot will be very difficult, and I don't imagine that they're going to be parked on the street. I mean, they have to get in and get out, and well, you know what a delivery truck are, they're long. Obviously, they was able to accomplish this with the Circle K because they have those same trucks we use, beer trucks also. But those trucks will have a very difficult time with one driveway under the scenario we're talking about, and I do not see how we could put them on the street. That's the only point that I think is not taken into consideration with the one driveway.
Just briefly, Bobby Sutton Sr. again. I think Mr. Young hit the nail on the head a while ago about abandoning properties. I don't know if you know it, but if you start with the funeral home, he mentioned it was actually a Don Seafood, but it's been vacant, I don't know how long, Mr. Young, but it's been vacant a while.
Wow.
Right across the street, the Chevron station's vacant. Right on down the street, there's another business, it's for lease, it's vacant. Right across the street from that, there's one for sale, it's vacant. And that's part of the problem. So this driveway that's being spoken about, this Mr. Woods is a businessman. And he is now being a very successful businessman. And I can understand why when I heard his resume presented earlier. But from a business standpoint, that driveway can kill this deal. And this structure has been vacant since January. So it'll be vacant along with the other 5 vacancies in that next block. So that's our point that we're making. Thank you, Mr. Young.
Mr. Joseph?
That's number 4.
so-
I mean, I was
okay.
discussing the matter
Okay.
with Mr. Sanders. That was,
Are you good with that?
I'd like him to finish if it's
Okay.
okay. Is this time, or we need to
Yeah, you
wait?
can,
Okay.
and then Mr. Ramirez. Yes, sir.
What was your question? I'm sorry.
I mean, we were talking about whether or not
the,
the owner would be able to deal based upon the chair's recommendation of sort of shifting everything to the west,
To the east, you mean?
to the west.
Oh,
Think-
okay.
Yeah.
Shifting the landscaping over to
Yeah.
the west.
Okay. Well, I'm following you, what you're saying, but to Mr. Sutton's point, or I mean to Mr. Wood's point, the presence of the 2 driveways for both dumpsters, dumpster removal, trash trucks, and beer trucks is fundamental. And we really need to keep that in place because the driveway's hard to get, and we only have 2. And I just don't think it's going to work any other way.
Well, he's proposed something that would make it even wider than it is now. And I think that the traffic engineering department has already looked into it. And that's why my question to you from the beginning was from a financial standpoint, because we all know these things come down to dollars and cents.
Sure.
And so, from a financial standpoint, is it cost prohibitive to you guys to accommodate that so that we can, as a planning body, and again, I like Mr. Woods. I want to see something in that property. But at the same time, we have an obligation to the future development of not just this area, but the city. And so, is there a way we can get there that doesn't break you guys and doesn't kill this job or this project?
The issue with the way it's currently configured, and if you'll follow me right here, this line that stretches north-south, right here.
And you guys have the adjacent property.
Yes, we have the adjacent property. This is a curb, and this is all grass that's on higher grade. So if you moved it any further east, we're going to have to bust up the curb that's here.
We're talking about west.
No, east. Running this way. Isn't that what you're proposing? So.
No, we're talking about moving this way.
Oh, I see. And
Right.
just
Follow me,
widening.
now you have a
You'd be
wider,
I see.
and it seems as though that accomplishes all the objectives.
That's something we could look at. Ultimately, it would come down to price
Right.
and who would pay for it, obviously, but something we could look at. So long as we had the same distance from here to here that we would be taking away
In total,
in total.
okay?
That's something we could look at, but again, we'd want our architect to review that as well.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else?
Mr. Sweeney?
Well, I don't think we can guarantee the same total width because the engineering department's not going to support that. The driveway, there's certain dimensions to driveways that's allowed. Right now, as it stands, that driveway meets the minimum requirements for ingress and egress. If they can expand that driveway somewhat to some level, according to the city engineering standards and requirements, we can work with him on that. But I cannot, and we should not guarantee him that what he's gonna get is the
One-to-one.
same width as what he's got.
Okay. I appreciate that.
That's not really appropriate.
I appreciate that.
Okay?
Right. I mean, the issue as we see it, we'd like to keep both driveways there. And the only difference in what the Circle K is doing and what Mr. Woods is proposing to do is, in addition to selling beer and wine, he's going to sell liquor. The one plus for the neighborhood that we haven't mentioned is that Circle K was open 24/7, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And Mr. Woods' hours of operation would be less. So that's another item I wanted to mention. But it really, I feel like it's, we don't need to mess with the driveways if we don't have to, and we'd like to avoid that. That's all I have. Anybody has any questions?
Mr. Remedies?
This question may be for staff. If by the potential tenant and the, I know the property owner signed off on it, but by them making this application, does the property owner lose this driveway?
If this application is approved by this body, in order to develop this site, they would have to close, if you said you wanted to close one of the driveways, they would have to close that driveway. If the owner of the property decided not to proceed with this lease with these people, then he wouldn't have to do anything. He could leave his two driveways and go back to square one and just lease the property to someone that could sell something because they're not going through an SUP. The SUP gives you, as the board, the right to move driveways and close driveways based upon the facts. But if this lease went away and he said, okay, now I'm gonna sell it to someone that wants to do, or lease it to someone who wants to just sell beer and wine, he could just come in and renovate the building, get his building permit, and he keeps his two driveways.
But with special use, it only goes with that tenant, right?
Well, it goes with this property in this situation and the use that's being proposed.
So if he doesn't come
So in
back-
this situation, because you have the right to mitigate anything as it impacts the neighborhood or traffic or whatever, you can put that stipulation on there. In order for it to be developed under this site plan for this use, that's what would have to happen. But if the guy decides he doesn't want to do that, then the stipulations don't mean anything and he gets to keep his two driveways. But he just can't put in a liquor store there.
I see, okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification, any decision we make is appealable to the city council.
Oh, absolutely.
And I just want to make sure everybody understood that. So
Absolutely.
no matter which way we go,
Right.
somebody's appealing this
I
decision.
mean, technically, you're making the final decision here today.
Right.
But you're absolutely right, Alan. It can be appealed to the city council. Very good. By either party.
That's all, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, no, any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, my motion is to approve.
Second,
With all the steps?
with all
or-
of the, with steps, with, you mean,
With the steps.
So you're gonna have them remove the driveway?
There's the push.
As I appreciate it, if we approve it as is, then the applicant has to decide whether or not he's going to accommodate by doing the changes that are being recommended. If they choose not to do that, they have the right to appeal that down the road, if I'm saying that correctly. So isn't that correct, Mr.?
That is correct.
All right.
So can they, so we got a motion in a second, right?
We have,
So we can discuss.
we have a motion and a second, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Remedies.
So what you're suggesting is, you're proposing, your motion is for it to go forward to the city council, and if they have a problem with the driveway,
can't they go to
they
here?
appeal it there, or?
No, we,
No,
He
we're
said
we're actually
we-
making the
we'll
decision.
make the
Approving
decision,
steps
no.
today.
But the
If they
applicant
choose
can
not
appeal.
to accept the recommendation, they have the right to appeal it themselves. We can't tack in the city council part of it.
That's right, okay.
Approve with the steps.
Approve it with the steps.
okay. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's, if, but they already have the dumpster location, I'm trying to see what else we have.
There's six recommendations.
But the motion is to make them close the driveway. Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Colvin?
Mr. Sweeney,
I'm sorry, yes.
so the way I understand it is, this is to make him close his driveway to do what he wants, beer, wine, and alcohol. But if he doesn't want to do that, he can open with beer and wine without our vote.
That is correct.
He can open with beer and wine tomorrow in 2 driveways without our vote.
That is right.
So if he wanted to, and we made this motion to close the driveway, and that isn't what he wanted, because he's told you 10 times that's not what he wants. Okay? But if he opens it up tomorrow with beer and wine and 2 driveways, he could run it for 6 months. Then he could come back and make a motion to get alcohol later, right?
You'd have to apply another special use permit application.
$1,500,
back to the same
$1,200.
process.
That's right, whatever it is.
Right.
So he could put it in, try it out, wear the shoes a while, see if he likes it, right? And then he could come back to us, and then he'd have the data, not only that he's an upstanding citizen and he's treated the neighbors well, okay? Because we're not here to judge anybody. I don't want to judge anybody.
True.
But then he's got his 6 months under his belt, and he likes his 2 driveways, and then he can say, hadn't been any wrecks. There hadn't been any problems. There hadn't been any vandalism. Now I want my alcohol.
Now, again, he would have to go back through the
I
SUP
understand.
process,
I understand.
which
Would he have
still
to wait a
allows
year?
you to do some changes if you want to. So
If it was my store, that's what I'd do.
What do you have?
I'd
to
get
do?
started
Does he have to
tomorrow
wait a year?
with 2 driveways.
No, you can come back as soon as he wants to. I don't know if that's what this gentleman's willing to do. He wants a liquor store. So, but if he does that, he would still have to come back this same pathway. So we're just gonna repeat history again, but as you said, Dale, with more
Well,
information.
obviously, he wants liquors because he wouldn't have to come here at all if he didn't want the liquor,
That's
the
correct.
hard liquor.
That's correct.
Because beer and wine is
Yeah,
liquor.
That's right. Well, beer and wine can be sold now. He could open it up
I know.
tomorrow.
So
if he
obviously, that's
wanted
what he
to.
wants.
But I don't know. I don't know what those plans are. That's not what he's asking for. That's not what this application is about.
Mr. Young.
Just give you a one-sentence
No,
synopsis.
I-
of the
You
issue.
can't
You
now.
can't.
You
Yes.
can't now.
It's
Mr. Young?
deliberation time. And Leah, your point is accurate. Alcohol's alcohol. And I don't
Right.
know why we're making a delineation between beer, wine, and
I don't either.
you can get just as happy on beer and wine as you can Jack
Or more
Daniels.
so.
And so it's a splitting of hairs, if you will. My only issue is if city engineering is saying thou shalt not have that second driveway if you do this application, to approve the application on the premise is inappropriate. Either the applicant or the owner has to relent to the fact that the driveway is going to go away and city engineering is going to be happy, or it's a moot point. So my right now is to say no. He wants beer and wine, that's fine. He can look at it, try to make it operational, try to make it work, and then come back later if all is well. But city engineering is saying no, and I.
No, well, we don't know what they're going to say yet.
To the driveway? They've already said.
They've already addressed it.
They've already addressed that issue. That has to be addressed before that application ever gets to this point. Am I right? Now, wait a minute. I'll let Mr. Sweeney answer this question, but city engineering has already addressed this issue of the westerly driveway.
We specifically asked them about this whole issue. We said, this driveway, should it remain or should it be closed? And their statement to us is that based on their design criteria, the closest driveway to the intersection should be closed.
It should be closed, so that means yes.
Should or shall?
And would they look at any other alternatives, like on Gilbert, or anything like
Well,
that?
I'm going to come back to this, is that, remember, this is a site plan. So anything that's decided here is what the site plan will be. I'm telling you that just by looking at this property, putting an access point on Gilbert is not a workable solution because of the tightness of this site and the fact of where the building is located. It's much more realistic to close that westernmost drive and look at the easternmost drive as the main access point. I did say to you earlier that if engineering will allow us to do so, if that driveway can be widened a little bit more to make it a little more workable for the applicant, we would at least consider that as part of what we would do in finalizing this site plan. But I would not go the route of accessing Gilbert Drive because I don't think that's going to work because you don't have the maneuverability space in there. But if you go the route that we have recommended to you, that mitigates the impact on the neighborhood. It's still a liquor store, it's still going to be there, but it's a workable solution. I mean, I'm going to extend something else that was said earlier. Now that we know that the owner of this property owns the property next door, there might be a point in time when if he develops all of that tract of land, that he would want some type of a joint shared access point for Kings Highway, which would require a reevaluation of the driveways to begin with. But that's something I don't know. We didn't realize that they were the owners of that property next door.
Okay, just for my information, or the board's, we could approve taking that driveway stipulation out.
You could. You have that option. You could say, we don't want to change the driveways.
But would
that's your choice.
but would city engineering come back and
City engineer
say?
would have to live with what it is you decide. Guys, this is your decision. You don't have to, we're giving you the advice and the criteria by which streets are designed. But does that mean that you don't have a right as a board to say, no, we're going to leave the two driveways there, and if you say it does, it stays? You have that.
I think the hard, we're here for the hard decisions, I understand that, but it just seems funny to me that you can serve beer and wine with two driveways, but not hard liquor.
Well, and I understand that, but
Not serve, sell.
remember, part of what you're trying to do is improve this site so that it is a more compatible site with the neighborhood as well as for what's along Kings Highway. And I kind of go back to the fact, if you look at
That's
the
a good point.
landscaping of Circle K, I realize they have two access points, one on Gilbert and one on Kings Highway, but it's a much larger piece of property. But if you look at what's happened at Circle K, we're trying to duplicate the same thing on this property, which is to give you improved landscaping, improved access that works better with less conflict. We're just using that as a model as we go across and down Kings Highway. This makes this project of a liquor store more palatable for the neighborhood.
That's a
Now,
good point.
That doesn't mean that they won't appeal it. It doesn't mean that these guys won't appeal it. When it gets to city council, all bets are off, because then all the stipulations can be taken off, or they could say, we don't want this at all.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Colvin?
Call for the vote.
We didn't vote.
I need a second.
haven't
We got a
voted yet.
motion and a second, right?
No, he's doing a call.
Call for the question.
Call the question.
You can call for the question. Need a second.
You did,
second.
you already got the second.
No, no,
It's a
no.
second.
It's
Oh.
second for the call for the question.
Oh, okay.
Got a motion and a second on the call for the question. All in favor of a call for the question, vote yes. All opposed, no.
What is this question?
So the call is, there's a,
In debate.
there's a
and
call to
debate.
the question, which means that there'll be no more debate. If you're in favor of just voting, vote yes. If you want to talk anymore, then vote no.
What now? What?
There's a call for the question.
We finished talking.
When there's a call for the question, that means that they want to proceed to the vote with no more discussion. If you want more discussion, vote no. If you want to proceed to the vote, vote yes.
Simple
Wow.
parliamentary
I've
procedure.
never heard that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes, call for the
That's
question.
standard.
That's a part.
So,
That's correct.
Do you want to
Do
talk
you wanna talk some
anymore?
more?
You want to talk anymore?
I voted no because I wanted to talk some more.
I do too. I do too, but I can't vote.
I can't vote. How
Can
did you
can
vote?
reset it?
Can't vote at all.
We can't vote. There's nothing here.
It said.
There we
Listen,
are.
Ladies and gentlemen,
We got it.
as a matter of parliamentary procedure, even though there may be confusion, when there's a call for the question, there's no discussion. We have to move to the vote. So yes, if you are in favor of the question being called, meaning proceed directly to the vote. No, if you think that there needs to be more discussion.
You ready?
Sorry. All in favor of the motion as it is on the, well, I'm sorry, that call for the
That passed.
question is successful. All in favor of the motion that is on the floor, which is to approve this application with the stipulations, vote yes. All opposed, no.
Hit yes, but
Yes, you did.
So this is motion approved.
Waiting on one.
It's 6-4-3 against, that passes. The next item on our agenda is case number C-103-17, a zoning request.
How y'all doing? My name is Anthony Washington, 1516 Earl Street, Shreveport, Louisiana.
Yes, sir.
I come before y'all today back in August of 2015. I purchased a building at 3901 St. Vincent. According to Cattle Parish Assessor's Office, it was commercial. I do a lot of business with the city. I own over 13 properties. I deal with adjudicated properties a lot. I get ready to go to MPC for zoning to do the parking lot. They say it's residential house. It's not. It's a building with a bay door, no walls, one bathroom. And so I'm here to get it commercial so I can open up a business at that address.
All right. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Andrews.
First of all, thank you for your patience for waiting your turn. As if you had a choice. That was the worst thing. But we looked at that building on our deal here, and it appears that it has been several different things. Just out of curiosity, not that we'll hold your feet to the fire, when we look at population density around that area, the cemetery appears to be the most populated piece of property in that area, pardon the pun. But just kind of give us some idea what you're anticipating putting in that building.
A retail clothing store.
Retail clothing. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any other questions? Ms. Cooper, is that you?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I think it was from
You
before.
stuck in there, Ms. Cooper.
All right.
I don't know
All right,
why.
thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? I
have a
can't see
question
anything.
I need to ask you. I'm so sorry.
Ms. Smith?
I passes that place often, It's not too far from our office, Cattle Community Action
Yes.
Agency. Your place is right there on that corner, right?
Yes, ma'am.
There'd be a lot of activities and a lot of writing on that building. Is that the
Mhm.
building you talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're gonna renovate it and all that good stuff?
Yes, I already purchased it. It's mine fully, and I'm gonna make it look real good.
Okay. Thank you, that's all I need.
All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, anyone else to speak in support? Anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, what's your pleasure?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion by Mr. Young, second by Mr. Andrews to approve the zoning request. All in favor vote yes, all opposed no. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Our next case is case number C-104-17. It's a zoning request. Yes, sir.
Hello, Andrew Cordero, 8805 Line Avenue, Suite 100, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71106. I guess it's a good sign I'm the only one here.
Right, right. Take advantage of that.
Yeah.
We got 20 minutes.
Usually I'm wondering who's going to oppose me sitting behind me, so it's good to know that no one's here. Yeah, I submitted a letter to the NPC that y'all should have in your packet. I was just going to read it straight from my letter. I'll keep it short and sweet, and then just see if y'all have any questions for me. NPC board members, I appreciate you taking my zoning change request into consideration for my office warehouse development located at 9238 Linwood Avenue in Shreveport. To provide a brief history of my development, I purchased the land in July 2015 and received site plan approval in October 2015 for my entire development, which included approval for Building 1 containing 8,400 square feet and Building 2 containing 7,000 square feet. At the beginning of 2016, I started construction on Building 1, which was completed at the end of 2016. Please see the site plan and pictures, which are included in your MPC packet. Prior to the approval of the UDC in May 2017, my property was zoned B3, which allowed many uses and a long list of possible tenants which are no longer permitted under C3. With the transition from B3 to C3, contractor office was not included as a permitted use under C3 of the UDC matrix. Contractor office includes tradesmen and small business owners such as electricians, plumbers, HVAC technicians, contractors, etc. Unfortunately, the change in zoning from B3 to C3 has severely impacted my ability to lease office warehouse suites to tenants who currently fall under C3 zoning. In the event my zoning change request is approved from C3 to C4, it will allow me to lease to tenants that fall under a contractor office, which is currently a permitted use under C3 or C4 of the UDC matrix. I am prepared to immediately start construction on Building 2 totaling 7,000 square feet, which will include additional 5 1,400 square foot office warehouse suites. As a small local developer, I can't afford to invest an additional $525,000 into this development unless I have the appropriate zoning. This will ensure I'm able to lease to the tenants this property was originally purchased and built for, and provide me the assurance necessary to complete my office warehouse development as originally planned. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, sir. Commissioner, what's your pleasure?
Motion approved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Colvin, a second by Mr. Joseph to approve. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor vote yes, all opposed no.
It went off.
Hang on, drum roll,
Uh-oh.
So drum roll, here we go.
Making me sweat a little bit.
It's gonna be.
Well, no, our machine shut off again.
If you're unopposed, man, you lose. I'm sure.
All right, let's try it
All in
again.
favor vote yes, all opposed no.
We
Quickly.
gotta do it again.
See,
There you
there's
go.
an advantage of being last.
Yeah, I know. It's
We're
best for
worn out.
last, right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That ends our public hearing. Next on our agenda is other business, master plan implementation report. Staff?
Yes, sir. I've got several reports to kind of give to you all, so just be patient with me and I'll get you through them real quickly.
first of all, just I want to bring it to your attention that I've not been able, for the last 4 months, to be able to get a quorum for the master plan committee. We have actually changed the time and tried to find a convenient date when we polled the committee members, but we're not getting responses or RSVPs, and we have gone to the well several times. So I just wanted you to be aware of the fact that if there's any statement about, well, why isn't that committee met? It's because we can't get people there. So what's happening, we're getting maybe 2 or 3 yeses, and then the rest of the group doesn't respond or can't make it. And so we actually offered to do a lunch meeting like they used to do, and even offered a lunch, a light lunch for that meeting so that people wouldn't have to go anywhere, and that still didn't bring them in. So we'll try again, maybe one more time, and then I think maybe it may be a situation where we just may have to talk to a few people to see whether or not they still want to participate on that committee. So I realize as we get closer to the end of the year, then we start with new appointees to the committee, that will change some things perhaps. Maybe that's what we need, and that if at that point in time, then maybe it'll correct itself. But it won't be a lack of effort on the part of the staff to accommodate. And but like I said, for 4 months in a row, we haven't had a quorum. So let me also bring it to your attention that the Parish Commission, as you know, as I mentioned to you before, approved the UDC for the parish back in September. You recall all of the amendments that y'all got approved in that interim that you sent to the City Council. All of those were approved by the City Council, including this latest one, which is the C1 to allow for the bank drive-through bank facilities. All of those amendments are now been packaged together and are being presented to the Parish Commission through the Parish Attorney's Office to have it ready for consideration in the next, hopefully by their next meeting. And there is some discussion that they probably will send those to a committee to be reviewed and studied before they take action on it. So there's a total of about 35 amendments that were done on the city UDC side. Now we're just trying to clean up the parish side of the UDC. Having said that, there's another thing that we're sending to the parish. If you remember back in, I believe it was back in April of this year, you approved a UDC fee schedule that was adopted by the City Council in May, about the same time that the UDC went into effect on the 15th of May. We were smart enough that we also tacked on, when we called it a C case, we also called it a P case, which means it's a parish case. So your recommendation was also to go to the parish, even though at that time they had not approved the UDC. So now we're scheduling that to go on the next convenient Parish Commission agenda for consideration of the fees. I would anticipate that one likewise may be sent to a committee for study and review, because you got to remember, we don't keep the fees from the parish.
Right.
But it would be an opportunity for them to have the same fee structure that the city has, and that's what we're proposing. Okay. The next thing I want to bring to your attention is, if you recall, we had a conversation, several conversations about the proposed Red River Overlay District. And what we did, we said, let us go back and study that district and see if there's some things we can do to improve it or make it better or eliminate it altogether. So what we did is we reached out and created a citizen advisory committee. And that citizen advisory committee of people that we invited was, and I'm going to mention their names, Liz Swain with the Downtown Development Authority, Isle Childs of Vintage Realty, Laurel Brightwell with UL Coleman, Jeff Everson, City Councilman, Steve Jackson, Caddo Parish Commissioner, Dr. Philip Roseman, and Ali Mustafa with the Caddo Levy Board, John Sold, who's an environmentalist, and Patrick Furlong, who's serving as the acting city engineer for the city of Shreveport currently. We met on October the 24th, presented to them how the district is now presently laid out and some of our concerns. What came out of that discussion, and I felt like was very valuable, was we felt like the boundaries need to be reestablished in a different way, using the high water mark that we talked about, the 500-foot wide distance from the river that's from the high water mark. Actually, when you actually map that, it doesn't even follow the river. It goes way off off to the side, and it doesn't make sense. So they said, we think we should reconsider the boundaries. They also said, we believe that the size of the district should be a little bit more condensed. In other words, instead of it stretching the entire length of Red River, they said, let's bring it further into the city, not into the parish, but rather certain segments of the city, including 12 Mile Bayou, which is an important area. They also said that they did not feel, in the citizen advisory group that we had convening on the 24th, they suggested that no one be exempted from that district, that either you do it or you don't. There's no in between. So what they've asked us to do, and what we're going to accommodate them with, is to go back and give them more information, give them some recommendations that we think that will make it work more effectively for the property owners as well as for the city as a whole. And that Citizen Advisory Committee will reconvene again in the next month or so with our recommendations, and they will then give us their recommendation, which is what we will present to you guys. Probably the soonest we'll get back to will probably be in January. That's my goal, with something that we think would be workable for changing that district. That's coming from a group of people that we feel are good experts in understanding the land and the property ownership and the situation along the river. We have looked, and I've tasked him with working on this project. One of the cities that has a very good model is the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, because of the Arkansas River. They have a very good set of requirements and regulations that are similar to our Red River Overlay District. That may be a good model for us to consider as we make changes to make this better. So I'll keep you posted on that, but I will get back with you on that as soon as we get further input from our Citizen Advisory Committee. The other thing I want to bring to your attention, and Adam will be here, we had 2 meetings of the Bylaws and Policies and Procedures Committee, which is chaired by Nancy. What we're giving you is a copy of the product of those 2 meetings. What we did is we did extensive research on bylaws from other cities and planning organizations. Our main template was the Michigan APA template for bylaws for planning commissions. But we looked at other cities, other Louisiana cities, we looked at cities across the United States. The product of those 2 meetings and the results of those 2 meetings is what you have in your hands. There is a lot of changes. We took the old bylaws and then we updated those, thank you. And we then put in the changes. We also asked the also asked the MPC attorney to review this. He has also provided us with some changes that we've also incorporated into this document. I'm asking you to take this home with you. I'm giving you the 30 days that we like to give ourselves to review things. If you have comments, concerns, or questions, please email me or Adam along with Nancy. Because since Nancy's the chair, she needs to see what's being asked for. Once I get all of the comments from anybody else, we'll come back to you on December the 6th requesting that you take a vote on the new bylaws for the MPC. Folks, the ones we have now are all in pieces from 1998 and 2005, and some of us didn't even know there were other sections that were missing. So this is an attempt to do something, as I think it was Alan Young said, let's bring us up from the 1960s, because this will make us legal and efficient, and anybody will know how we operate and know there will be no question about the procedures and operations anymore. So I just want to let you know I'll bring this to you on December the 6th, but do take the opportunity to read this when you take it home, and then please feel free to send me, Adam, and Nancy emails to if you have questions or any further comments, because we're open. This thing is wide open because we want to hear anything that you think might be a problem so we can address that. So,
Hey, Mark?
Yes.
On section 10.1.1, instead of an email to you and Nancy and the chairman, can I ask about the meeting? It says the regular meetings of the planning commission, which are defined as clearly scheduled the planning commission at which official business may be transacted shall be placed on the first Wednesday of each month, yada, yada, dot, dot, dot. But in the old bylaws, it had at 1 p.m. Are you taking the time out?
No, what we're doing here, and you can look a little bit further, we didn't really say, we're allowing the time to be set by this board. In other words, if you guys decided
that you wanted to start meeting at 1 o'clock, you could do that. If you decided you wanted to meet at 3 o'clock, you could do that. That's a flexible thing that shouldn't be in concrete, because each board may say our members are much better off if we meet at 3. or
Where
at
does
4.
that say that at? I don't see that.
Well, I
in
can,
this
I can,
section.
let me get that, I can talk to you about that offline, and we can talk about that some more, but that's something, if you want to send us a comment on, you may want to see have addressed, feel free to let us know.
So we're gonna vote this up or down in 30 days?
Yes, sir. That's the plan, unless you guys decide to delay it. That's up to y'all.
Is Adam still here?
Yes, he is. He's right
I
there.
just want to thank you, Adam, because he spent a ton of time drawing on at least a dozen other cities and trying to figure out which cities would be most comparable to ours, and reading through them all and sending them to me. And he just spent, and he drafted it really, and all I had to do was kind of go through, and we all looked at it as a committee. But anyway, thank you, Adam, because that was a lot of work.
And the other thing, two things I wanted to bring to your attention, this is all going under other business, by the way. I branched out from the MPC report. You all have a copy of the flyer for our holiday luncheon, and this is for the MPC board, the ZBA, as well as the staff. And so I wanted you to bring your attention, it is on the 8th of December, which is a Friday, at 11:30 a.m. at Wine Country there on Line Avenue. And we will send you out another reminder, because we're still a little ways off, but believe me, it'll be here before you know it. And we've already made the arrangements, the accommodations, and we will remind you of this and hope that you can all RSVP so that we can make certain we have adequate food and everything. And we'll do like we did last year. We will have some awards to give out for recognition of accomplishment for the staff, and a few other things that may come along with that. So keep that on your agenda. The only other thing I want to mention to you as a staff report is, if you look in your binders, you have the new dates for 2018 of when we will meet. You may want to memorize these and put them into your calendar. There's only one exception down here, is that unfortunately in 2018 our meeting falls on July the 4th. So we're going to meet the week later, which will be July the 11th. So keep that in mind, because I know that's when a lot of vacation times occur. But we are not going to cause you or make you come to this meeting on the 4th of July. So occasionally it'll fall on a holiday. So that's why that's the only difference in the list of dates going forward for 2018. It's hard for me to believe that here we are almost in 2018. I don't know where 2017 went to. So, Mr. Chairman, that is all of my reports.
Okay. Well, that's all staff reports.
That is it.
All right. I want to yield into Ms. Cooper for the nominating committee report.
Our committee met. It's Mr. Andrews, Ms. Smith, and Ms. DeMarteau, and Ms. Cooper. And we came up with a slate that we will put before the board next month. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and it's going to be, again, Mr. Andrews, secretary, myself, vice chair, and Mr. Jackson is chair. And y'all can ponder over that until next month.
All right. Any other items for future discussions, ladies and gentlemen?
Just so it's on the record.
Yes,
I
Alan?
will be absent next month. Sorry, but I can't do anything about it. So, and I know that we should. I will be back in time for the party.
Okay, great.
But I will be absent for the next month's meeting. So hopefully y'all won't have a heavy load.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Andrews.
There's no further business, so motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion. Well, let's. Meeting is adjourned.
All right, my friend. Enjoy.